Then we have the crazy one, Civil War from Alex Garland's Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. We have Blue Angels, the documentary, how they're just this tightly knit crew, this tightly knit family of once a Blue Angel, always a Blue Angel slogan that they have. Really fantastic documentary. So I'm really glad I finally went to see Deadpool and Wolverine, Deadpool 3. Hello everybody, hope you're having a good year, hope you're having a good summer so far, hope you're enjoying the summer movie season as it has been going on so far. Let me know in the comments below what movies that you have liked so far, any movies that have been made onto your favorites list, onto your top 10 of the year list, any movies that you are anticipating that have finally come out, what have you thought of those movies? Let me know in the comments below. I've kind of built a top 5 of my top 10 favorite movies of the year so far. A few anticipated movies have ended up onto that list. Time to get into several of the movies I've seen back to about December and through earlier this year, kind of catching up on the movies I've seen so far, show up the ticket stubs I've collected so far. So here we go to jump into going back to December with Yorgos Lanthimos' Poor Things, with now two-time Academy Award winner Emma Stone, as well as the awesome talents of Willem Dafoe and Mark Ruffalo. It's awesome to see Mark Ruffalo kind of standing out of his comfort zone into a quirky indie movie like this. I know that Willem Dafoe always loves to be in quirky, weird indie movies like this. I have not caught up on Kinds of Kindness, so just been Poor Things. But what can you say? It's Yorgos Lanthimos, very strange, but very interesting and intriguing, weirdly intriguing type of movie. Really interesting story about growing up, learning how the world works, learning how people and social etiquette works, learning about the ugliness and the great things about humanity, learning about life in general, sexuality, and those kinds of things, but it also ends on kind of this cool and crazy and weird retribution type of ending, and this movie also squashes animals together in crazy and weird ways. So really weird movie, really interesting. I enjoyed it a fair bit, actually. This one's wearing out. Godzilla -1. This was on my top, my favorite movies of last year. Amazing movie. Totally, I think earns its first Oscar, well, first and only Oscar of visual effects. Awesome movie. Napoleon, kind of worn out there. From the great and legendary Ridley Scott, and this movie definitely does deliver on the epic biopic visuals that Ridley Scott is most famous for. It's awesome, big, epic scope that Ridley Scott always likes to turn out in his movies. Great performances as well. Joaquin Phoenix definitely as the military France leader, and then Vanessa Kirby, I believe, is Josephine, with Napoleon's coming up into leadership life, his personal life, and his romantic and kind of broken up, insecure life with Josephine. So pretty cool movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's a pretty cool time. Always a great pleasure to see one of Ridley Scott's great works on the big screen. Next up we have my wife and I went to Argyle from Matthew Vaughn. I really like Matthew Vaughn for his Kingsman Secret Service movies. I think he's coming out with the 4th Secret Service movie, but I didn't really enjoy this movie that much. It has this interesting idea of this author writing novels that turns out to be the inner workings and the actual plot of this agency espionage type of underground kind of work that's actually going on in the world, and they try to track down this author, or the one character played by Sam Rockwell trying to track down this author, get to the novel details that she wrote down and trying to find out, what are you writing in your next book? What are the agency up to? There's some fun action and comedy scenes going on later in the movie, but things just got too confusing and too weird for me. I was starting to check out, not having that much great of a time. It's entertaining enough, it didn't really hook me in that much. Another 2 tickets with my wife and I went to Dune Part 2, and then I actually have another ticket following that, I believe. Went to it twice. And what can I say? Just like Part 1, this tremendous and incredible big scope movie really follows up on the first movie and adds much more substance, much more character and story, and many more things going on underneath the surface that then connects all the different factions going on in the universe, the different houses besides the Atreides, all the different houses coming into play. Just much more going on. Incredible scope. Denis Villeneuve is just going to kick it with the next movies that he has in the works with Dune Messiah, which I believe is coming out next. What can I say that hasn't already been said? Part 2, just an incredible, if not even more incredible than Part 1. Much more story, character, substance. Incredible third act with the confrontation between the villain factions and Paul Atreides factions. We'll see what happens next with Zendaya's character and Paul Atreides, so definitely much more to look forward to. Very excited for the next movies. Alright, then we have the crazy one, Civil War from Alex Garland. I was certainly interested in how this movie would turn out. I'm glad that this sidesteps any kind of political connections that it might might implicitly or accidentally make with kind of the real world situations and climates that's going on now. But I really appreciated that this movie was really just going in to show the maybe sort of obvious aspects of the inhumanity of violence and war, and the inhumanity and violence that happens with going to a civil war over disagreements or over different factions. I thought that this movie was a really incredible war piece and a really cool look on these journalists making their very risky and treacherous trek down the east coast of the United States from New York down to DC to try to interview the president in this movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. This was a crazy and intense time in the theater. Jesse Plemons. I am much more afraid of that man now. That scene, you know that scene. Just ugh.
Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
Alex Garland stepping down from directing? We'll see. I think he'll be back sometime in the future. He's got to be back. I don't think he's done now. So, incredible work, Civil War. I think he'll come back with something else.
I'll be back.
On to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. This kind of establishes like a new apes and humans type of world to look into, and this new Planet of the Apes, new lore and mythology to look into in the rest of these movies. So pretty cool start, pretty interesting movie. And moving into, and I'm probably my most anticipated movie of the year, and among my top 3 favorite movies of the year, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. And what else can you say about this movie? This is from the original mastermind, George Miller himself, continuing on, but also taking a step back into Furiosa's backstory and into these other villain characters' backstories and how everything kind of follows up to Fury Road, how Furiosa's character grows up, child, into the much more, well, the stronger and older character that we know of best from Fury Road. This is really all the same George Miller, awesome work with the action, the character development, the crazy stunt feats going on in this movie. Really great way that he built on the previous part of the Fury Road story. Okay, and I have a couple of stubs here that are on sticky notes because I didn't actually get the stub from the theater. We got Bad Boys, Ride or Die. This one, my wife and I saw together kind of on a whim. She saw the trailer, it looked like a lot of fun to her, so I thought, let's go. Let's have some fun with this action movie that neither of us have seen the previous 3 movies. So this will be fun and interesting, and it was definitely very fun and interesting. I was actually much more impressed with this movie than I thought it would be. Being a Michael Bay movie, it has its fair share of dumb and weird moments going on in this, but really awesome action. I was super impressed with how well the action was handled. There's a whole helicopter fight sequence happening where there's so much chaos inside this helicopter that's spinning around. The movie moves along with a lot of espionage elements to it, a lot of different betrayal, a lot of different broken of trust. They come down to this small group that is up to us now to save the world. So we have our crazy save the world Michael Bay type of plot. It's an enjoyable movie. I think I'll watch the previous 3 Bad Boys movie now and see what goes on before this movie. And then another sticky note stub, we have Blue Angels, the documentary. This was shown in the IMAX on Memorial Day weekends, plus a couple of days after that. I unfortunately missed out on that opportunity, but when I thought back to this documentary that I should have caught up on, found it on Amazon Prime. You should be able to watch it on Amazon Prime too, catch up on it. When I was a kid, I actually went to a few Thunderbirds air shows where they did the same kind of air acrobatic flying maneuvers as the Blue Angels, but after a while, and at that young age, I can only take so much of the loud and thunderous noise of these F-16 flybys all the time, especially those crazy thunderously loud sneak attack maneuvers that they were pretty iconic for doing all the time. So when my dad and my brothers invited me to go to some nearby Blue Angels air shows, I declined on those and just stayed home while the rest of them went to some air shows. And so kind of ever since then, I wanted to go to a Blue Angels air show of some kind. It was cool to see this documentary on the Blue Angels, to not only get kind of a secondhand look at their flight patterns, to see the Blue Angels in action all over the air and everything, seeing the team's whole prepping process from beginning to end, from recruiting new pilots, physically and psychologically testing them, to planning out the different maneuvers that they are doing, kind of analyzing the videos of their flight patterns that they're doing, to the cameras being in the cockpits and the cameras kind of flying along with the pilots. Spectacular images and spectacular shots in the air, around the cockpits, inside the cockpits, some different interviews with different kinds of pilots, their family lives, how they're just this tightly knit group, this tightly knit family of once a Blue Angel, always a Blue Angel slogan that they have. Really fantastic documentary, amazing insights and amazing illustrations of how their maneuvers are done, the sheer G-force they're putting on them. This documentary really certainly did give me a whole new level of respect that I have toward these pilots. Incredible documentary, definitely would have been 100 times better in IMAX, didn't get that chance. Really great to watch it anyway. Okay, and one more sticky note item here. Subscribe. Not a movie, but subscribe. Yes, I'm pasting this up here on my blackboard. If you're enjoying these movie reviews, I have a couple of other Take a Step reviews up above, kind of in the card up there, of past movies you want to see more of this style, but I have more of this style of movie reviews planned later on, maybe toward the end of this year. If you like more filmmaking videos and videos that I have orchestrated myself, subscribe, check it out on this channel. And next we have If for Imaginary Friends from John Krasinski. I like the idea of these imaginary friends manifested in these CGI characters, and the idea of these imaginary friends trying to reconnect with their actual humans now grown up, or reconnecting with a different human if they can't reach out to their actual human. It's a very nice and cute idea. However, the execution felt a little bit uneven, like the pacing and some of the storytelling and some key emotional scenes felt a little bit off. A couple of scenes with the main character reuniting the If with the actual person, and both of those scenes I felt took a little bit too long. One of the scenes didn't even show the payoff where the imaginary friend is reconnected with the person, and the second scene I felt just took too long. Some odd storytelling and uneven pacing changes going on in this movie. I'm willing to see it again. Maybe I'll have a better opinion or enjoy the movie a little bit more. Open to seeing it again. First time, it was fine. I thought it was okay. Could have been better pacing, could have been better storytelling. Then went to The Fall Guy with my wife, 2 tickets. Emily Blunt, Ryan Gosling, a love letter to stunt guys everywhere, and the whole action comedy about what if like stunts in this whole espionage plot is happening on this film set, and happening on this film set with some like terrorists or bad guys kind of around it. Just a really cool action comedy going on. Great action, fun comedy, good romance overall, and I liked the idea of this espionage sort of betrayal, murder mystery espionage type of thing going on a film set and inhabiting these film characters. Really cool and neat ideas in this movie. And now to A Quiet Place Day 1, looking at where it all began in the whole Quiet Place story. It was a pretty cool idea to have this beginning part of the story taking place in this loud part of the city for when the meteors land and the highly sound-sensitive aliens didn't just wreak havoc all over the place, decimating most of the city and most of the New York, especially loud and lively population of New York, decimating everything down to this very quiet environment, and the characters picking up that this has to be a quiet environment in order to survive everything, in order to survive these highly noise-sensitive aliens. So it was cool to go to the beginning of this franchise into this more character-centered direction, as the Quiet Place franchise is more or less character-centered, but much more character-centered in this first part of the Quiet Place franchise and the Quiet Place timeline. And next, Long Legs, psychological horror thriller starring Nicolas Cage. Very unsettling psychological horror, definitely along the lines of like Zodiac, Seven, Silence of the Lambs, those kinds of comparisons that we've seen over and over again. Very good focus on this soft-spoken but keen and insightful investigator, with most of the camera shots centering up this character, along with most of the camera shots centering up the action going on in the shot, centering up the characters who are involved in the shot, a lot of the camera shots centering things up and providing quite a bit of room on the edges, quite a bit of room for suspense, for the killer might be over there, or there could be something questioning going on in the different corners and the empty sides of the frames. Sinister idea of the serial killer doing some of his work to the victims without actually being there, and having the victims do the killing work to themselves. Wrapping up with these last 2 stubs with Twisters. This much long awaited and kind of mysterious will it won't it type of sequel to the 96 Twister, which I actually grew up watching quite a lot. Kind of one of my favorite movies and really one of my big inspirations to go into filmmaking. All of us heard different details of will it come out, won't it come out, are we getting a Twister sequel? I don't know, I think I enjoyed Twister more in contrast to this one. Maybe too much story. It feels odd to be criticizing or commenting on Twisters for having too much story and having too much of the characteristic substance going on in it, the story substance going on in it. Like, I didn't care too much about the story, and I didn't care too much about the surrounding characters around Glenn Powell and Daisy Edgar Jones' character. Now, fortunately, I liked the 2 lead characters the most, and I liked their development throughout the movie, but I don't know, I admired the first Twister much more. There are a couple of faults in this movie that I didn't care for that much. I enjoyed Twisters fine enough. And finally, the movie that the internet is still going crazy about, and I still keep seeing lots of spoilers about, so I'm really glad I finally went to see Deadpool and Wolverine, Deadpool 3. Gosh, I really loved this. I was super entertained through and through. The quips, the dialogue, the character development between Deadpool and Wolverine. Hugh Jackman really brought their A game. I really thought that Sean Levy did a fantastic job directing everything together and really keeping the heart of the characters, really keeping the heart of the fans that people are bringing into their love for the characters, their love for the Deadpool, breaking the fourth wall, his quips and his dialogue and his jokes, and the way that he's like physically abused and killed and hurt in different ways. Some cool cameos in this, some really good fan service in this. I know lots of fans were really happy about this movie and the fan serviceness and cameos going on in this movie. There was a good third or so of my audience, I distinctly remember, kind of off in the corner of my theater, cheered at a lot of different moments, cheered at you-know-who revealing himself as you-know-what character and not the you-know-what other character. Yes, no spoilers here, this movie just came out. I really love this action comedy. I really love the escalating fights between Deadpool and Wolverine the few times that it occurs in this movie. Some really great character moments and developments, particularly with Wolverine, and some really great moments between the two of them, Deadpool and Wolverine, being genuine to each other, actually discussing what they want to get out of these series of events happening with each other, what they actually want to get out of life to actually matter to each other. I like the story direction that they took with this. The story direction kind of felt right and kind of made the most sense with these two characters, bringing these two characters together and the mission that they go on to try to fix things in the universe and fix things in their own realities and for their own lives. Maybe not a perfect story, but it still had a great climactic teamwork scene and a really nice wrap up for both of our characters. And those are the ticket stubs. I really shouldn't review 15 movies at once. If you enjoyed this, hit that like and consider subscribing so you can see more videos like this. And I have a special cool announcement coming up in my next video that I would really appreciate your help with. It's not a feature film, but it's a big project that I've been working with kind of behind the scenes, which has been bringing me back from making consistent, continuous content here on this channel. But I have a cool announcement coming up next video that I would really appreciate your help with, so stay tuned for that, subscribe, and stay tuned for my next announcement coming up. Thanks so much for watching, and until later, watch great movies. Yes, just reconnect. Yes, I am waiting. Oh, there goes my light. I thought that was going to happen. There goes the battery.